with Ryan.
Today, we are thinking basketball with Jordan Allen, the founder at Rising Stars Scouting and the Rising Stars Substack on under-the-radar prospects and G League players. He's a basketball insider, an advisor at Basketball Intelligence, and a fellow scout of the NBPA Top-100 camp, where we got to see some of the top prospects in the country. But, before we hop in, just excited to catch up and chat. How you been today?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on, Ryan. It's great to be back here talking hoops, and all is well. We got a lot of college basketball on the slate today, a lot of high school recruitment stuff. So look forward to diving into that with you today.
No doubt. So what made you want to start the Substack? I know that's a pretty new field for you of kind of getting some news and insight out on some of the under the radar guys.
Yeah. So what prompted me to start the Substack was I figured I needed to get my name out there more. And also a lot of people want to know nowadays where people are going, where they might be going. Are there any connections between the colleges and these recruits? So I just thought it was a good time. And over the years, I've built up more and more connections in the high school space specifically. So I figured that with all my connections now and sources, I could put together something that people would want to read and be interested in.
Absolutely. And the first one hits on a lot of big names and recruits. And we saw Meleek commit to Arkansas since then. We saw Kiyan commit to Syracuse since then. And I'm excited to hop into some of these big names and what you've been hearing. And maybe right before we get into that, I was curious kind of what is your background in the scouting field? What kind of led you down this path towards, scouting in general?
Yeah, sure. So, my whole life, I've always been a huge basketball fan, but I would say what really got me into this is over the years, I would really zone in on the draft and study the prospects and watch as much film and everything researched about these guys. And over the years, I was trying to figure out a way to get in, to the basketball world. And during the pandemic, actually, as soon as it hit, I had lost my position in sales. And I thought, all right, I need to think of something to do. So this idea stemmed from actually originally being a podcast. And then it went from being a podcast to being an actual scouting service. So that's how I got into it. And it's been a great experience ever since.
No doubt. And I know you've been flying around, catching all these high school events. And obviously we met at the NBPA Top-100, and that was really cool to kind of get to know some people in the field and just catch all this insane top talent. And I know you're constantly just hitting up all these events and getting the insight. So it's got to be a cool pass. So, more generally, broadly, when you're out scouting or trying to kind of learn about players, what is your process like? Like, are you trying to get to know the people that are close to them, like family and friends or coaches and scouts? Or is it more of, granular film study, trying to, watch as much tape as possible? And, what do you look for in their games when you are watching their games?
Yeah. So essentially the first time I come across these prospects, I'll watch, right? Like, the one thing I always say to people, watch full games. Don't watch highlights. Don't watch clips only, because at the end of the day, it's not going to give you a full picture of what a player can do. As you know, as well as I do, it's only going to show the good things, the positive things in clips and highlights. Well, you need to see what they don't do well also, because that gives you a better landscape and perspective on, okay, this is what they do well, this is what they don't do well, and this is what they could improve upon. So I like to dive into that first. Now, in terms of getting close to the individual and their families and friends, it depends. If I have the opportunity to do so, I will. But if I can't, then normally what I do is I'll reach out to some of my sources and say, hey, what have you heard about player X, Y, and Z? And just get a familiarity with them in terms of their background and their personality, etc. So that really is how my process works. And in terms of understanding, how their talent would translate to the next level, I think a big thing now is, do they have potential? Are they really willing to work hard and adapt to the college level? Because as you know, in high school, it's a lot different. A lot of these guys have a lot more freedom. They have a lot more, ways of showcasing their talent and skill. When they get to college as a freshman, they're not necessarily going to get that freedom unless they're a top prospect, as you know. So that's really, how I go throughout the process and how I see, high school guys translating to the next level being college and so forth and so on.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you want to get as much info as possible, and everything is a data point, whether it's just something somebody said about someone, but you got to take kind of things with a grain of salt, because everyone might have some sort of agenda here and there, whether it's they're on their side or working against them. But everyone wants to see these kids succeed at the end of the day, and you just want to kind of collect as much info as you can, try to learn about them as a human being as much as a basketball player, and then obviously they got to be able to hoop too, and to make it to the next few levels. So there obviously is a line to be walked there. So I thought we might hop into some of these more recent signings, like like I mentioned before, Meleek Thomas. We caught Kiyan Anthony as well at the camp. What were your thoughts on him committing to Arkansas after with Meleek Thomas, after kind of the different possibilities that he might go elsewhere?
Yeah, so Meleek Thomas was interesting. UConn was on him for a while, and then they stopped recruiting him, I want to say, back in maybe August. This is just a hypothetical timeline. And then what happened was, as you know, his choices narrowed down, and Arkansas was where he was going to go, because obviously their NIL is unlimited with the Walton family, Jerry Jones, and Tyson Foods. And I'm not saying that was the be-all, end-all for his decision, but also you have to remember John Calipari has sent more guys to the NBA than any other college coach in history, I believe. I'm almost 100% on that. But if you're Meleek Thomas and you're looking at all your options and you want to get to the league, that is probably your best option. And besides, UConn also, their 2025 class is full. So there wasn't actually a spot for Thomas at the end of the day, right? So he had to choose between Pittsburgh and, was he going to go back home? And I didn't see that. Not because Pittsburgh's a bad program by any means, but it's tough to get a five-star kid like that who's at overtime, already getting paid, having all the exposure. It's hard. Now, if he was back home in Pittsburgh, right, at his local high school, then maybe they would have had a greater chance at landing him. But at the end of the day, as you know as well as I do, the money talks, the fit talks, and he is an NBA prospect. So that's where it makes sense for him to go to Arkansas. And I actually thought that Arkansas was the right place for him anyways, even before all this, when he was going through UConn, all the different other options that he had. So ultimately, I'm not surprised at all. And I think it was the right decision for him.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, money talks, that's a huge factor. But the first thing I thought of is, like you mentioned, Coach Calipari. I mean, that stereotype of like Kentucky guards always being a sure thing in the draft is going to follow him to Arkansas. He now has two of the top guards in the country with Darius Acuff and Meleek Thomas both teaming up together. I mean, that's just some insane talent. Those might be two of the top five guards in the whole class on the same team. And talking about Meleek, I mean, man, like other than Chris Cenac at the camp, NBPA NBPA Top 100. That'll be the camp we keep referring to probably throughout the pod a little bit. Other than Chris Cenac, like Meleek was the standout player of the camp to me. Like I think to everybody, like he was just a walking bucket. He led basically every stat. Like he was first overall in impact via Cerebro Sports. He was 10th on defense, 17th finishing at the rim, first in playmaking, 8th in scoring, 31st in three-point effectiveness. And then in just regular old box score stats, he was first in total assists. He was drawing fouls. Like he was 3rd in overall points, 7th in assists to turnover, 8th in steals, dropping a 23-7-7, 1.5 steal stat line. And, you know, getting to talk to him a little bit, like interviewing him, like he clearly is focused on developing his game, and like he's confident in his game. Like he's not worried about any naysayers. Like he's out there to hoop, and for good reason. Like you watch him, and I compared him on a different podcast before to the smooth shot making of like a Jamal Crawford, but I'm sure he has his sights even higher than that. But like just the natural score, like the natural handle, natural like feel for the game, where he can like float around the court, complete control of his ball, the ball and his body, like going downhill, making these tough reverses, spinning for a fadeaway, crossing up, pulling up for like midi pull-ups, 3-point pull-ups, like anything he wants, like a clear as walking bucket as that term can be. So like he's a super exciting talent, and you know definitely is going to see his. I could definitely see his stock rise being a part of that program. Good teammates, good coach, national spotlight, and like you said, like already being at overtime. Like we're probably a little bit past the days of that home court advantage for recruiting for the pipeline, where like the feeder program is just you're nearby, so you're going to go to the local school. Like it's just gotten too big. It's almost like, you know, it's a borderline pro sport in itself. This entire, you know, collegiate landscape at this point with the transfer portal and the way that, you know, scholarships and NIL is now affecting everything. So, you know, good for him for making the right choice for his development and probably taking advantage of his talent to take the next steps and get the most out of it. I wish him nothing but the best. And, you know, I think, you know, I don't know about you, could easily see him be like a lottery pick at least going forward with his draft class.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that in terms of potential. I just think it depends if he can fundamentally get better. That was one of the takeaways for me after watching him at the Top 100 camp is he's got a lot of talent. He moves really well. He's quick. But I find that sometimes he needs to get better fundamentally. And I've talked to NBA scouts and executives about him, and they agree, and just other high school scouts that you know, are really dialed in, and they've echoed the same thing I have. But I think that once he gets to Arkansas, they're going to be able to refine that, and Cal's going to be able to, you know, channel his talent and mix it with, you know, becoming more fundamentally sound. A good example of that, in my opinion, would be someone like Rob Dillingham, right? Somebody who is a dynamic 3-level scorer, who's talented, but Cal actually refined him to being more fundamental. So I think there's a similar comparison to that in Meleek Thomas.
Right. Could definitely see that, and hope nothing but the best for him. So, you know, Kiyan Anthony just kind of committed to Syracuse. We caught him at the tournament. He's obviously, you know, the big name, Carmelo's son, announced it on Carmelo's podcast to the world that he's going to follow in his dad's footsteps to Syracuse and really help, you know, join a traditional program there. And it's exciting to see. I mean, you know, I can't say Kiyan was like the most impressive player at this camp, but as his dad said, it's just camp. Let the kids hoop. So like, you know, they're out there to have fun too. I would say he was like, he made my second team. So clearly like top 10, top 15 kind of like guy at the camp. Like he was a natural scoring creator, walking bucket in himself. What really impressed me was his tough shot making, but also his bump and finish shot making, where he was able to like hunt contact, finish at the rim through contact, finish mid-range pull-ups through contact, and really showed a ability to run a half-court offense with high-volume pick and rolls as a smooth decision maker, tight handle, clean jump shot like his dad, but also running some offense, drawing fouls, looking for open shooters, and scoring at will. So, he did a lot there. Was there, anything you heard in his recruiting process or anything that really stood out to you about his game?
Yeah. So going to back to the recruiting process from inception, everyone told me that I talked to, it was Syracuse. Like there was actually somebody that told me like a year ago. They said, quote unquote, Kiyan Anthony will 100% be committing to Syracuse. So I figured it was a done deal. And also obviously Carmelo going there and Syracuse being Syracuse, having that brand and the reputation that they do. I look, I never say I'm 100% until it happens, but I was like 99.9 because everyone was telling me that I talked to that it was Syracuse all along and that Auburn and USC, they weren't going to get him because also, if you remember, Jim Boeheim and Carmelo were very close. So he's been recruiting him forever. If you get what I'm saying, right? So it was a natural fit. It makes sense to me. I always thought he was going to Syracuse as well, aside from, talking to the people that I did. But I would also say in terms of his game, I think he's got to make sure that he's more selective in his shots because a lot of the time at the top 100 camp that we were at, he just shot too much. And I'm just being honest. I'm not saying there's not talent there, there's not upside, there's not potential. But one of the things that really stood out to me was just the amount of shots that he would try to get up just for the sake of shooting. And I think once he gets to Syracuse, that's obviously not going to be the case. They're not going to let him do that. With Sadiq White going to Syracuse as well in the 2025 class, he's not going to be able to just shoot and shoot and shoot. But I think that Coach Autry at Syracuse will be able to refine that and make sure that he's taking better quality shots. I know it's high school and all, but you got to learn good habits, right? Even in high school. But I think he's going to learn from this. And I think that Syracuse is going to be able to develop him the right way.
Yeah, and I can definitely see like it. One thing watching his team's offense was like he clearly had the green light. Like so, the game plan was we're just going to let Kiyan like run the offense every time down, run a pick and roll. And like I mentioned, like it impressed me that he was able to run so many and generally get a good shot for himself or teammates or draw a foul. But like you said, like it would be nice to kind of see other guys involved. And the same could be said with Meleek a little bit too. Like Meleek was out there hunting his own shot as well. And, it's kind of like it's a tough line, I'm sure, for them because they're in this group of like top 100 talents. They're trying to stand out among the best players. So they're kind of incentivized to get their own numbers. But at the same time, where you also want to see good winning basketball habits, guys that play good team first basketball. So, that I'm sure that's a little bit of a back and forth. But yeah, I mean, I think Kiyan was definitely given the green light to just let it fly there. And, I'd say that we almost could have started him. And I want to hear what your thoughts on his rumors are for where he might go. But Chris Cenac Jr., I mean, tournament's MVP, like stood out, clearly standout player, like looked kind of like a man among boys at times in terms of just his size and skill. Obviously, he was on the Team USA team with Boozer and Dybantsa a little bit later after this camp. But, at the camp, he rated 5th at the rim, 13th on defense, 6th in overall impact via Cerebro Sports. He was highly efficient scorer, made 27 of 30 free throws, over 85% there. He was the most impressive player to me. If I had to make like a quick comp after watching him, I thought he had a little Chris Bosh to his game where he was just a smart, big forward, like strong rebounder, had a little mid-range pull-up touch, could kind of run both sides of the pick and roll as a finisher and an initiator. And like his look ahead vision, like had some point forward-ish qualities to me where like he was able to grab and go a lot. He had great defensive instincts for anticipation to force a turnover and push the pace a little bit or look up and find teammates. So, he definitely stood out. He dropped 20 points, 9 boards, 2 steals, and 2 blocks as averages for that camp. 60% from the field, 90% from the line. Like he did it all. And we got to meet his dad at some point, I think, and shout out to him. He was super cool. Him and Darryn Rippey's dad, they were both super cool, super gracious for taking the time to talk about their kids' games a little bit. That was a lot of fun, and just get to know them and how hard they work. So, what kind of were your thoughts on his game, and then what were you hearing on where he might land?
Yeah, so Chris Cenac to me was easily the best player there. I couldn't even think of anybody that was even close to him at the top 100 camp. I'm with you there, 100%. Just his skill set at his size at 6'10". Some people are saying he grew to 6'11". I don't know. I don't have a measuring tape or anything like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did grow. He's, obviously a senior in high school right now. But what impressed me most about Chris Cenac is his ability to impact the game on both ends of the floor very effectively. He's somebody that can do whatever he wants, and get to so many spots on the floor, whether it's shooting, whether it's, getting into specific defensive coverages and schemes. He can adapt to anything. He's the type of guy that just wants to win. And to your point about his dad sharing information with us about him, one of the things that really resonated with me is his dad said, Chris continues to work hard and take nothing for granted. This is a kid that he's never satisfied. He always wants to improve. And ultimately, he just wants to win. He's very unselfish. He'll normally make a winning basketball play to impact the game for the better and help his team get that win at the end of the day. And I think that's great. I don't think we see enough of that with a lot of these top prospects, right, Ryan? Because a lot of them want to really just stand out and, be a little bit selfish, which I understand to a degree, but someone like Chris Cenac has done both. He's merged, both of his skill set and his winning impact together. And he's always impressed me with his athleticism too. I remember we were watching him at the top 100 camp, and he was throwing down big time dunks, getting to the rack easily with impressive finishes on layups and such. So overall, very impressed. I think Cenac is going to be a very good NBA player as of right now, and I think he's got a really bright college future as well. Speaking of college, I was actually talking to a source of mine yesterday, and they were telling me that Houston's actually in the lead right now to land Chris Cenac. Okay. So that's the news that I have to share right now. I'm not saying LSU is off the table, but it seems that Houston is making a play for him by saying, hey, you come here, we'll develop you into an NBA player, and we'll make sure you have all, the resources and everything like that. And a big thing in terms of resources, I was told this from another source, was that, LSU doesn't have a lot of NIL. So their AD is really reaching out to a lot of boosters and donors, trying to come up with enough money to bring Cenac there. And I'm not saying money at the end of the day is the number one priority for Cenac. He's going to get paid wherever he chooses. But I think, if he's looking at Houston and LSU and they can both offer him the same amount of money, I think as of right now he's going to Houston. But as you know, Ryan, things change, right? Like it's not a definite that he's going to Houston or LSU or whatnot. Arkansas is still in the picture too, I was told. Like they're making a push for him. They got in a bit later, and I think that has prolonged the process a little bit. But having said that, I'm not sure that Arkansas is actually making a big enough push as I thought they were originally. In the recent days, someone told me that it's Houston and LSU now. So Arkansas is in it, but not as much as LSU and Houston. And that's what I've heard right now, and we'll see where that goes. I was told that he's probably going to commit anytime from January to February. But again, I'll keep everybody updated on that timeline. You can follow me on X at Jallin. That's JALLN for all recruiting updates.
Yeah, got to check out his X, his Twitter page up there. And man, think about Arkansas. That's unfair to the rest of the teams. We were just talking about how loaded that backcourt is. I can't imagine Meleek and Cenac on the same team, and a Cuff and everyone else they got there under Coach Cal. And I mean, they literally, other than Duke, like what Coach Cal has had the most number one picks of any, like while he was at Kentucky, he sent the most number one picks of any college program, was like just his sequence at Kentucky outside of, Duke in the history of the league. I was looking at that the other day. And, speaking of Houston, I mean, they have, obviously a storied program with Phi Slama Jama. You got Hakeem Olajuwon there as like, maybe you get to learn a little bit of that footwork and playmaking as he shares his tutelage. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Kingston Flemings just committed there as well. And like, talk about another like impressive pairing. Like he was actually like, once I went back and looked at the numbers, like he was all over the top 5 rankings for this camp. He was via Cerebro Sports. He was top 5 scoring, passing, overall impact, and 33rd in defense. So he was doing it on both ends. Showed 2-way winning impact, natural scoring creator, like point guard who just creates good looks for himself and others. And he's capable outside shooter with developable ball skills, kind of that dribble pass shoot mentality. So, I'm not sure what else you might have seen about his game, but he definitely impressed, and he'd be, quite an exciting pairing with Cenac at Houston.
Yes, and I agree with you. I think that Flemings is a phenomenal talent. And I was actually talking to someone yesterday who has watched him a lot because they live in the Houston area. And they just said that when he dropped 44 points the other day, and I'm sure you saw that, against, top level competition, he said that was the moment where he was thinking, okay, he's an NBA player. And I agree. I would be surprised at this point in time if he doesn't get drafted. I understand he's like 6'1", 6'2". Again, we never know 100%, but from what I've watched, he looks about 6'1", 6'2". But he's just too dynamic. He's very athletic. A lot of people, I feel, aren't talking enough about that in regards to Flemings. Like, his athleticism is really impressive. I'm not sure if you caught any of that game, but he had the winning dunk, and he just elevated and threw down a powerful one-handed dunk. And, I'm not saying that's what sold me. I've been high on him for a while now, but that just sealed the deal for me. That 44-point game, impacting, winning on both ends of the floor, scoring at all 3 levels, and just having that verticality and, making a statement by having the winning basket as well. I just think he's a lot better than some people think. And I would also agree with you to your point about Cenac joining Houston. I think him and Flemings would work great together. They both want to win. And at the end of the day, they're going to make each other even better than they already are. So I could see that being a possibility and end up being actually a great fit. And I agree with you on that. I think that that's also going to help Houston in potentially landing Chris Cenac at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like that. That's a good player to play with. Is somebody that wants to set you up. That's a natural kind of like half court creator like that can get but can also look for you and hit the threes when you're passing to him. So that's a fun guy to to keep an eye on. And yeah, he just stuffed that sap sheet for that game the other day. I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but it was just like 44-8-5, something crazy like that with all the threes. So the super exciting talent. And I mentioned Deron Rippey as well. Ron, he put up 13-5 and 2 steals at the camp with an impressive point guard who could hit the three. He had a sequence where he had 5 steals in a single game at the camp. He was like 5th in total assists, 4th in assists to turnover ratio, tied for 8th in steals, and just showed good feel like on both ends, able to make plays, forcing turnovers, and then also looking to set up his teammates as, a bucket getter, but also kind of a more traditional point. So, he's someone to keep an eye on as well. And one of the, I want to say a first round type talent is where he's projected for 2026 as well. So, have you heard anything about him and what might be your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I really liked Rippey at the camp, and I thought that he displayed a lot of point guard qualities. He can run an offense. He understands when to go, when to facilitate. He did a great job at that. He can score at all 3 levels. The other thing that stood out to me about Rippey is he's just a team guy. I mean, I saw him, and I'm sure you remember, like when he was on the bench at the Top 100 camp, it was all about encouraging his teammates, supporting his teammates, making sure that they knew he was all in for them as well. Just a guy that, is very respectful, just a good kid. Everybody I talk to has nothing but good things to say about Darryn Rippey Jr. In terms of his recruitment, honestly, I haven't heard the choices that he's narrowed down. I honestly haven't. He does have a lot of offers. Offers to note is he's got Illinois, he's got Louisville, he's got LSU, he's got Maryland, he's got Oklahoma State, Purdue, Providence, TCU, Wake Forest, Washington, Miami. I could go on, but I haven't heard anything yet in terms of, where he's leaning to, who's on him the most. But you know what? As we get into the new year, I'm sure I'm going to hear more. It has been quiet, though, on that front as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, some guys take their time. You got to make a patient decision. It's obviously a big life choice. So
Huge.
It's cool to hear all those, offers that he's got, clearly getting recognized on the big level there. So shout out to Ron doing his thing. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much talent. It's hard to talk about everyone at this camp, but there's Acaden Lewis. He just committed to Kentucky. He was one of my top 5 standouts. Little lefty point guard, mean crossover, hitting the pull-ups. He actually, my favorite little comp was, anytime you see a lefty point guard, you might think of Brandon Jennings, and he had a little of that start-stop burst and pull-up game. And then I asked him what players he kind of bases his game off of, and that's the first name out of his mouth is, Brandon Jennings. So that was cool. I actually shared that quote, and I think Acaden and Brandon Jennings both like retweeted that about their game. So it's cool that even Brandon got to kind of like shout him out in a way, just full circle moment, I guess, seeing that happen. But, I really love his game. I think he'll probably move up in the rankings, especially being at Kentucky now, loaded roster, natural point guard, killer like pull-up shot, like I mentioned, and can run some offense and also show some two-way feel, like digging for steals on the defensive end, making plays on both ends. So, what did you hear about maybe what went through his recruiting process?
Yeah, so for Acaden Lewis, it was always between Duke and Kentucky. I was told that it was probably going to be Kentucky, like from a while back. Having said that, Duke was in on him. But the thing is, he was more so the type of kid that wanted more, opportunity to showcase his talent. And as you know, Duke always loads up big time. Kentucky with Mark Pope, not as much as obviously, Cal did in the past. And I think that's fine. I think you can win more with that model. But at the end of the day, Acaden Lewis wanted to go to Kentucky, and I was told a few days before that it was a done deal, and that's where he was going. And he was really excited for the opportunity, to be one of the main feature guys in that offense.
Yeah, I mean, Duke just has, like you said, they just load up on so much talent. I imagine once the Boozers both committed there, that kind of had a trickling down effect on some other guys that, want opportunity, like you say,
Yeah.
and like there's just only so many spots in the lineup to get that opportunity, and it's going to be a little tougher to show off everything you got when they're already bringing in so many top guys. And Kentucky's a huge school, a huge national program with a ton of history and success sending guys to the league, even if, a lot of it was through Cal. Like it's cool that now Acaden's going to get a chance to show off his skill at such a huge program.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point about Duke just having so many guys, I mean, they do. And with the both Boozer twins committing, and then Shelton Henderson and Nicholas Amenya, I mean, not saying like that was the be-all, end-all for Acaden Lewis because he is a point guard. But at the end of the day, he's seeing all these guys commit. There's probably going to be, other point guards that do. There may be some that stay on the current Duke roster. So I get it. I think, honestly, he made the right decision, in my opinion. And the offense that Mark Pope is running, a very modern, a lot of cuts, a lot of ball movement. I think it really complements Acaden's game a lot better than it would at Duke, because they don't run that type of offense at Duke. It's more stagnant and stuff like that. And in my opinion, I don't think it suits his game as well as Kentucky does.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And, super exciting talent. I think he's really going to put his own name on the map and shoot up the big boards compared to where he's being mocked now, a lot higher, as just a little bit different walking bucket half court creator. There was a lot of those at the camp, like some clear talented scorers who could create a little bit. Like it's there's a lot of those going around in the high school days, guys that can get their own bucket and then create for others. But he's clearly got the goods when it comes to that. And so there's a lot of guys that have recruited or committed recently, like Dwayne. Aristode just made a commitment. I'm not sure if Shon Abaev committed yet, but the rumors are he might be headed towards Cincinnati. Have you heard anything about that?
It's interesting you bring up Shon Abaev. I was just talking to someone about him yesterday, and they were telling me that Abaev, I mean, again, nothing's a done deal, but it seems like Arkansas is where he's probably going to go as of right now. They've been in on him. They feel that his game translates well to their offense, which I would agree with. But I have not heard Cincinnati. Maybe it is, in his top three, even though, he hasn't done a top three yet. But yeah, no one's told me that Cincinnati's in the running. And the other school that I heard was more so in the running for Shon Abaev was Oregon. So that again, that's what I'm hearing right now. As we know, things can change. I'll be updating that as time goes on. But I also haven't heard when he's committing. I want to believe that it's going to be sometime, in January, February. Maybe he drags it up to March. I don't think so. But again, he hasn't set a commitment date. So we just have to wait on that and then see how that process plays out.
Interesting. Yeah, those what are some fun rumors to see where he could go.
Yeah.
I think I just saw on somewhere on some recruiting pages that Cincinnati was in the mix. So, that would be, I mean, Arkansas is really all over these top guys. They're going to come away with somebody already with like two unlocked. I mean, they're out here star hunting right now. And
yeah.
So there's, I mean, so many players to mention, from the camp. Malachi Moreno is joining Acaden Lewis at Kentucky. That'll be a pretty cool point guard big man combo where he's more of like a defensive anchor type, and that should be a nice pairing. You had Nick Lewis and Zamika Wilkins were impressive on the same team at that camp. Winters Grady, a knockdown shooter at that camp. I mean, just to name a few guys, like King Grace, I thought was one of the standout like defenders, winning players. Like we were talking about guys that show like good habits. Like that's a guy that like competed, brought the right amount of energy, showed active hands, ton of deflections, and then brought a little downhill force and smart feel to both sides of the game, able to find teammates there. So like that's one of the marquee defenders, I thought, especially on the perimeter from the camp. And, I really like Jalen Petty, Davis Fogel, and I remember you really enjoying Tyler Jackson and his point guard play. So, I don't know if there's anyone else you want to mention or hit on any of the guys I just mentioned, but just from this camp, I mean, there's so many impressive players here.
Yeah, no, there really is. And going back to what you were saying about King Grace, because he was one of the most impressive athletes, I thought, at the top 100 camp. He just could get up there anytime he wanted from a standstill and impact the game, on that side of the floor. But I would also say that Tyler Jackson was very impressive to me. He can run an offense. He's a good facilitator, very good at attacking the rack. I mean, his change of speed when he goes into the paint, he can just veer off and then explode and just go right to the rack and lay it in. He's very, very good at that. He's very effective. He's talented. He sees the floor well. He's a pure scorer. That's what Tyler Jackson is. And I think that as time goes on, he's just going to get better and better. He hasn't filled out yet. He hasn't added muscle. And I think once he does that, I think he's going to be really, really good. Don't know where he's committing yet. But I was told that as of right now, Maryland is making a strong push for him. All right. Maryland is really making a strong push for him. Syracuse is right there. I think Auburn is in the mix, but I mean, Magwood just, he committed there. So I'm not sure that's going to happen now.
Right.
And Simon Walker did as well, who's a guard from Huntsville, Alabama. So I personally, from what I've heard and the people I've talked to, it looks like it's between Maryland and Syracuse as of right now for Tyler Jackson.
All right. Yeah. I mean, natural point guard, definitely like smart player on that end. And speaking of Maryland, I forgot to mention Marcus Jackson. I thought his athleticism popped, and apparently he just decommitted from Maryland about maybe just under 2 weeks ago. And, that's interesting to see where he'll end up. I don't know if you've heard anything about him, but I thought his athleticism really popped, like high flying hops, downhill athleticism, rim runner, defensive instincts, able to make a lot of plays on that end. Like obviously has some places to go developing the ball skills, but he flashed some things. Like he did hit a couple threes. To me, he might have been the most impressive, just natural athlete. When you think of the word athlete, just bouncy, rim running strength. Like he was super impressive in that sense. So shout out to Marcus. Not sure if you've heard of him. And then Magwood as well. You mentioned is heading to Auburn. I mean, that was one other guy I wanted to give a shout to, who's just another walking bucket, like clear pull up 3-point shooting ability, good crafty ball handler, good start stop body control, like good vision, burst, soft touch, tough shot maker. Like he's clearly out here to get buckets. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned you're probably not going to get more than one or two of those guys on the same team. So, Tyler might be looking elsewhere as well. But, shout out to Magwood and Marcus as well.
Yeah, Marcus Jackson, he just suddenly decommitted from Maryland. I don't know the reason. I'm not really sure, but to be honest, I haven't heard where he's going now because this was just a sudden decision, and the news obviously came out. So I don't know. I mean, I know that Arizona State is a school that has really looked at him. Auburn, but I don't think he's going to Auburn now. I don't. As I said, with their class, it doesn't really make sense. He, not that it matters, but he is from Raleigh, North Carolina. So I wonder if he ends up going to Charleston. Chris Mack's there. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there that that's definitely a possibility. Because other than that, I'm not sure what other options there are for him at this stage. But again, like I'm going to update if there's anything on Marcus Jackson. But yeah, it'll be a very, honestly, it'll just be very interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, definitely tantalizing athlete there. And yeah, it will definitely be interesting because I'm interested in his development because he clearly has the athletic tools to make it to the next couple of stages. So if he can put it all together as a basketball player, like that's a super interesting player.
Yes.
And, some other standouts like Dante Allen headed to Mount Verde as a transfer. He's, winning player as well, high two-way feel type of guy, like can hit the open three-point shot, can make the right decision, can defend a little bit. And then I don't know if you caught prolific prep against Columbus the other night with the big matchup with Darryn Peterson and the Boozer twins. But Winters Grady was also in that game. He was at the camp, and he didn't shoot the lights out, but he knocked down a couple catch and shoot threes and did what he does. Like he can set a pick and run that pick and pop and stretch the floor and knock down the three anytime you need him to. And I just wrote up like Darryn Peterson like blew me away in that one. Like I just wrote up a little something for Swish Theory on that, where like Peterson dropped like 33 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals against the Boozers, and they were able to upset the Columbus team down in Miami. I think they played at FAU. Peterson was incredible. He was like swishing everything, showing two-way feel, like defensive instincts. Really impressed. I thought he kind of put his hat in the ring there was like a moment for him, like on the national stage against the top profile Boozer twins, to just be like, I'm here too. Like this is a top 3 in this draft class coming up. So, that's another guy to keep an eye on. And Prolific's really got, quite a program going on out there.
Yeah, they do. Darryn Peterson's great. I've been saying this for a while now that I think it's very possible he could be the best player in the 2026 class when it's all said and done. He just does everything at an elite level. He's a winner. I was actually talking to another source about Darryn Peterson, and the one thing they said that really stood out to me is he's always getting on his teammates in the best way because he wants to maximize everybody around him to be successful in order to win ball games. And to me, that just shows his maturity, his leadership, and just his willingness to do whatever it takes to win. And, aside from that, I mean, he could score at will, any which way you want him to, whether it's 3, whether it's a layup, whether, he can do everything extremely well at a high level. And I think that, Darryn Peterson has shown that, yes, he is in that conversation 100%. I mean, for me personally, I think he's better than Cameron Boozer. I really do. I believe that he is, and that he can do a lot more with the ball. He can run an offense. I get it. Cameron Boozer has the size, but Darryn Peterson is just so effective, and he's so dynamic as a 3-level scorer. So I've always been extremely impressed with him overall.
Yeah, and I caught some tape on him before that game, but I don't know if I had that wow moment hit me yet of what the upside can really look like. Like you said, like he he's just a complete basketball player. Like he is incredible defensive instincts, knows how to use his length without fouling and get contests up, dig in for steals. You know, had some chase down blocks from behind, looks for his teammates when he draws defenders into the paint, and then able to still score sometimes too, drawing those defenders in. Like he'll draw fouls, he'll hit these crazy like up and under floating jump shots, floaters, midi pull-ups, and then some of those. I mean, all of those threes, I think, except for the buzzer-beating running bank shot he hit to beat the buzzer in the first quarter from three, like the net didn't even move, let alone hit the rim. Like it was like completely in line as a shooter, like super impressive. I definitely think he's in that at the very least in that top three discussion. And yeah, I mean it'll be a discussion for, you know, I think we got like 500 days or so is what I calculated earlier till that actual draft. So we got some time for guys to continue to make names for himself. But, you know, on the national scale, I think he definitely needs to, you know, be viewed in that discussion as a top three, even though the other two are super impressive. And, you know, we'll hit on Dybantsa here in a second and maybe the news you're hitting. I just want to give one last shout to the NBPA Top 100 camp. It was super cool to be able to be there as the media and check out all these players. Some of the guys that we didn't quite get to, but just want to at least shout their names out. Tounde, Yessoufou, Jamarion, Batemon, Jacob Wilkins, Mike Williams, Brayden Burries, Jerry Easter, Tajh Ariza. These are all the guys that just kind of stood out to me in like a top 25 type of a sense. And you can check out my full scouting report on theswishtheory.com. And yeah, I don't know if there's any like parting thoughts you had from the camp or anyone else that you want to hit on while we're here.
I mean, you know, I think we touched on everybody that I would have highlighted, and I think, you know, we've gone through all those guys. So honestly, I don't have anybody else that I want to shout out from that camp. Actually, you know what? I have one.
All right, now we're talking.
He just committed to West Virginia recently. Trent McClain.
All right, there you go.
So Trent McClain, I want to shout him out because a lot of people were down on him, and you know, I thought that he had a lot of potential, and that he will continue to do so. I think the future is bright for him. You know, every time I've watched him, he's getting better and better. You know, I watched him at the Battle by the Beach / the high school fall invite in LA in October. He was really good in every game. He had one game against Jason Crowe where he just knocked down everything. It was one of those games.
McClain has some real ball skills. I mean, he's a 6'10" type of center, but you know, he showed off some handles. He was hitting look-ahead passes with a smooth jump shot, like you said, like a clean outside shooter, catch and shoot threes, has some good defensive instincts, good mover off the ball. Like the way I describe him almost reminds me of a little bit of like a taller Tristan da Silva. The reasons the Magic drafted da Silva is just kind of this connector, do-it-all, versatile scorer who at the very least plays two-way winning basketball, moves the ball, makes good decisions, uses the defensive instincts well to kind of get contests out there and active hands and rotate well and sound footwork in the post. Like just a good fundamental player. So good shout to end it on. And, you know, like as you mentioned as well, Jason Crowe was at this camp. I'm not sure if we caught a ton of his tape, but from what I saw there, he was a versatile scorer, could hit the 3-point shot, clean finishes at the rim, a little bit of a tough shot maker, had a pull up shot going with the fadeaways, the mid-range shots, the corner three, the above the break three, split the defenders once for a nice little contested finger roll, nice handle. So, you know, shout out to Crowe as well. What are you hearing on his recruitment?
Yeah, so in terms of Jason Crowe's recruitment, while I was in LA, I was talking to people about him, and they told me that it's very likely, again, nothing set in stone, that he ends up at USC and staying home. He's from Inglewood. He's right there. People are telling me there's a very good chance he stays home. Now we'll see if that happens. I don't know. He has he has so many offers that, I'm not going to go through all of them because it would just take too long. But I was told USC. I mean, he's a 2026, right? So we have time right now. And I think USC makes sense for him, to be honest. I mean, because everyone in LA and in California primarily knows who Jason Crowe is. So to me, it makes sense for his brand. It makes sense for his, image and, what he's trying to accomplish. And besides, we all know that at USC now, with Eric Musselman and building out the program, they're going to want somebody like that to spearhead the team. So what better person to do that than Jason Crowe, who is from LA, like born and raised, he is like Mr. LA, like Mr. LA high school basketball. Like he's on track to break the all-time high school scoring record in all of California.
Whew. I mean, there's the fun fact of the day if you didn't know about Crowe.
Yeah. He's on track to break that. So, just a great dynamic, 3-level scorer, scores at will. I mean, just his shot-making ability and, he is just a natural scorer. To me, and I don't like to say best because you could always argue, but I would say he's arguably the best pure 3-level scorer in high school basketball right now.
Well, damn. High praise for Jason Crowe. I mean,
every time I've watched him, he's blown me away with his scoring ability. So,
man, we're gonna have to catch some more tape. Hope to see him hit USC there. That'd be a lot of fun. See a hometown kid repping USC like that. I mean, that's what you want. That's definitely what you want to see. So, wish him the best of luck at that next level. And some of the other big names that you were writing about in your Substack that we haven't quite hit on yet. AJ Dybantsa, Nate Ament. They had a big matchup pretty recently where they kind of went at it with some tough shots. I thought, what impressed me with Nate Ament was his shooting stroke for his size, like pretty good handle, tough shot maker, able like that high shot release, very, very like fluid movement skills for someone that size. And like one little moment where he was bringing the ball up, went behind the back, past one defender, and then pulled up for three in front of another defender. It's like that, and he's a big dude. I don't have a size in front of me, but he's like a power forward doing that. So super, impressive type of scorer, super long length as well. So, what are you hearing about his process?
Yeah. So with Nate Ament, I was told recently that Duke is likely going to land him. I mean, that's right now. That's what it looks like. Yep. That's what it looks like. Now, what happened with Nate Ament, for those that may not know, is he is from Virginia. He's from the DMV. He was going to go to Virginia, but when Tony Bennett retired, I mean, that was short-lived. I mean, he wasn't going to go there without Tony Bennett. That just wasn't going to happen. So I've been told now he's going to Duke. And that's pretty much all that I've been told, about his recruitment. So
that's all she wrote. That's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, when you get a legend retiring like that at the school you're interested in, it's hard to follow up that no matter what you do.
You can't. I mean, you're not going to get like the top guys, right? Because that's the reason they're going there, right? Like even with Duke, right? When Coach K retired, like there were some guys that said, you know what? I want to go there. I don't want to go to Duke anymore. Coach K's not there. So,
that tradition is part of what the coach built for being there so long. No doubt. So Duke just continues to rack up the huge talent. That one's going to be wild. I'm excited to see how that final roster kind of turns out. So would that be to be clear, that would be the same year as the Boozer twins?
Yes.
Am I off a year?
No.
Man.
Nate Ament is a 2025.
Yeah, because I know they played together at least with Cam, and Acaden on the Olympic team as well, if I'm not mistaken. So and Cenac and Dybantsa for that matter. So the Olympics are looking good, and Duke is looking good as always. So
that would be a good fit for them. Nate Ament with his shot making ability, and being able to move very well without the ball. I think he'd be a really good fit with the Boozer twins and Nick Amenya. And I never say anything's a done deal, but from what I've been hearing about Ament, I would be surprised if he doesn't end up at Duke.
Man,
I would be.
Right. Heard it here first. Let's see it. I can't wait.
Yep.
That'll be a fun one.
Absolutely.
One last kind of, maybe not last, but one more big name, at least that you wrote about in your Substack recently, was AJ Dybantsa. The crown jewel of this recruiting class, almost, for a lot of people. Everyone's saying BYU, it seems like, because of X, Y, and Z. Like, you got to shout out the money kind of as an aspect at the very least. He did transfer to Utah Prep. He's playing in Utah this season. I think you mentioned the article. One of the owners, is it Ryan Thomas?
Ryan Smith.
Ryan Smith.
Utah Jazz.
Ryan Smith of the Jazz, the owner of the team, literally is big funds behind BYU as well, trying to just lift up Utah basketball at every level. So what are you hearing about that? Is that a done deal, or are there still other teams in the mix?
Yeah. So with AJ Dybantsa's recruitment, it's not a done deal, but it's very likely that BYU lands him at this point. I've talked to a number of people about that. I talked to one of his former teammates who said it's BYU. Now, having said that, I was told that if UNC can come up with $5 million or $7 million, however much he gets, there is a possibility he goes there. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but all I'm saying is it is a real possibility that he ends up at UNC.
Man, that'd be something, because I thought Alabama might have been in the mix as another option there. But man, can you imagine Duke UNC with Boozer Dybantsa as the headliner? I mean,
I know.
Talk about bringing the rivalry back. I mean, he should do it for that reason alone.
I know, right? No, but at the end of the day, if I had to say where he's going to go, probably is BYU, just because he's at Utah Prep now. And as I mentioned in my Substack, Ryan Smith is a big investor in Utah Prep, okay? He's an alumnus of BYU. So he's a big donor for them as well. He's been recruiting, quote unquote, Dybantsa now. I mean, you have that connection. You also have the Kevin Durant connection, which is interesting because Coach Kevin Young, who's now the new coach at BYU, was the associate head coach with the Suns. Durant was on the Suns. So they have a good relationship, I was told. Now, Dybantsa works out a lot with Durant, and has a very close relationship with Kevin Durant. So that's how all that comes together. So Durant and Kevin Young have been recruiting him really hard. So if I had to guess, it's probably going to be BYU, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up at UNC. It wouldn't.
Yeah,
but those are the two schools that I've been hearing, obviously, the most about. And there's really, in my opinion, no other school that's really in the mix at this point in time. And you have to also remember, Dybantsa has a NIL deal with Nike worth just over $1 million. So he's going to go to a Nike school because that offer, I was told, runs through college as well. It doesn't end. So it's a longer deal than people once thought. So that's why I think it's got to be a Nike school or a Jordan, whatever. So I think I'd be surprised if it wasn't BYU or UNC.
Two big programs. I know. I mean, I've been catching some of BYU with Igor Demon recently as well, where he's really been standing out as he came over from international prospect, and like he's been killing it. So like they've been able to get some big talent. Like he's really impressed with kind of like his natural pick and roll field decision making, like able to pull up a three when the defenders go under, able to drive and hit a cutter, hit a shooter. like just really patient decision making, really good, like plays at his own pace kind of player, and clearly a top talent probably for this upcoming draft. So you could see BYU kind of like slowly getting more and more talent that way with all the and not just investments, but the people behind them, the basketball people behind them, just doing so much recruitment from so many different sides.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, when you have those NBA connections, I mean, it's hard for someone like Dybantsa to say, well, why am I not going to go to BYU? Right? I mean, he's got Durant, he's got Kevin Young, who obviously was an associate head coach in the NBA. So he understands how to, get guys to the league, even though, some people would argue and say, well, he hasn't coached at college. But, my whole thing is, yeah, but he's coached guys that were in college and have developed into NBA players. So he obviously understands the process and being part of, the pre-draft and all that. I think some people forget that. And now him being in college, he's going to understand it even better and how certain guys translate to the next level. And I think Dybantsa realizes that as well. And as you mentioned, Denham, he's been very good. Egar Denham. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Pronunciations are something I constantly have to work on. We're going to hope for the best here.
Well, excuse me for my mispronunciation if that is the case, but Edgar Denham has been very good. I expect him to be a lottery pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, to that point about the coach, Kevin Young, right?
Yep.
I mean, he I could maybe see the criticism is like, will he win at the college level with the way the game's played versus coming from the pros? But in terms of what you said, like obviously he's going to understand the pro pipeline as well or better than anyone at the college level when he's dealing with pros that have gone through it on a day-to-day basis. Like he knows what's going through the pre-draft process. Like that experience directly aligns with the goal of getting to the pros. Now, will it translate to wins at the college level? We'll see. But I mean, BYU is off to a good start and clearly like showing able to, create a winning type of program, good type of, like clearly some good offense being run there with Denham, like we've been talking about. So like, I'd say he knows what he's doing pretty well.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And it's interesting. A lot of NBA coaches that that start in college, right? That try to make a name for themselves as a coach normally don't do well. Having said that, I think that Kevin Young is going to do well. I think BYU is a good fit. I think he understands more so, what it takes just from, as I said, being around the game for so long and just talking to people who have also told me that he just understands how to adapt to situations. So I think that he's going to be fine at BYU. And I think, their program is going to be a lot better than people would have expected because he has that NBA pedigree. And I think that goes a long way if you can adapt at the college level in regards to coaching style, etc.
Yeah, and when you got the backing from up top, like you have that vertical integration between the coach and the staff behind him that kind of help build the team. I mean, that's a recipe for success, especially when you get the players on board for all that. So, popping around to some other players here, Elijah Arenas is this huge talent that I know you wanted to get into a little bit. And like anytime I see him, like I probably see his highlights more than anyone on my feed, where it's just like he's just a fun player who can also like play winning basketball and maybe a little bit. I don't want to compare too many prospects against each other, but I was just going to say maybe a little bit like Meleek Thomas, where he's just a natural scorer, like a natural like feel for the game, natural handle, natural shooter, just able to do so much with the ball in his hands. Obviously, he's the son of Gilbert Arenas, and Gil must be putting him through the practice to get him ready. He knows what it takes to he's a 6'6" guard that can shoot handle, pass, dribble. Like, I mean, what can't he do? So, what have you heard about Elijah, and what do you like about his game?
Yeah, so Elijah Arenas has always blown me away, and this might come to a surprise for some people, but I actually think he's the best player in high school basketball right now.
Oh, there it is.
He is so effortless in his scoring ability that, I was watching him at the Battle by the Beach tournament, and I just thought to myself, he's just casually dropped 30 points and didn't even look like he broke a sweat. I mean, I can't name another player that's like that. And he's a 2026. He's got 2 more years. I just think the sky's the limit for him. But the other thing is, with Arenas is I feel like there's sometimes he gets bored because he's so much better than everybody else. And I noticed that. Not to saying he doesn't try, but honestly, I don't even think he's going 100% in these games. That's just how good he is.
Yeah.
Because he's getting bored of playing against the same teams and stuff like that. And besides, in the summers, he's playing against NBA players and runs. And I was
just thinking of that. Yeah, I was just thinking.
That?
I was just thinking the same. Like I just was watching some clips of him, like giving Durant some trouble, and I think it was Mikal Bridges some trouble. Just like these huge NBA defenders, super long length, no problem. He'll hit a tough fadeaway over you too.
Yeah, and I know it's just a run, but how many high school guys are going to be able to dominate against these top NBA players at this stage in their career? Like I don't know that there's very many that could. And I get it. It's a run and it's not a full game and all that. But it'll be interesting to see, if Arenas and, Chatsworth High School ends up playing against some, top competition just to see how Arenas does. Now, I'm confident he'll do well and he'll dominate. But it'll just be interesting to see, how that all comes together and how it translates. But, yeah, overall, I'm a big Arenas fan. Just watching him, going back to that game I was talking about at Battle by the Beach, he treats the refs well. He doesn't complain. He just plays. He encourages his teammates. Seems like he's a good leader. So all positive things on that front. But, he doesn't talk back to the coaches, nothing like that. Seems like he's very respectful and just wants to win. I would say, to your point about Meleek Thomas, I think that Arenas impacts the game more in regards to winning. I really do. I really feel like that's the separator, and just his fluidness and, more of a natural ability just to get, to so many places on the floor and dribble drive and, just making great passes as well, which I don't think is talked about enough about Arenas is his passing ability. I'm not sure what you've seen, but I've noticed that he's a very good passer.
Yeah, I mean, he stuffs the stat sheet, that's for sure, and especially, passing and scoring and 3-point shooting. So it's never just the scoring with him. I mean, he shows just an incredible feel for the game and ball skills. So definitely, I don't think it's unreasonable to think he's one of the best talents in the country on the come up. Like he clearly is in that class, and we'll see how high he can get to. And it's probably a little early for his recruiting class, I would imagine, recruitment stuff, but, we'll have to keep an eye on where that ends up.
Yeah, I actually do have a update on his recruitment. So as of right now, Arizona's in the lead to Landyn. So as you know, that's where Gilbert Arenas went. His dad. So there's a fit there. I know people have told me they've been recruiting him for a while now, and they've been in on him. Now, obviously, that can change. He's 2026, but right now, Arizona is the spot that I was told.
There you go. And yeah, I mean, Gilbert Arenas was just one of the most exciting players growing up, getting to see him, and he had a couple of years there where he was like all NBA, as good of a scorer that existed in the league, and point guard for that matter, could put up like 25 and hit 5 threes and all that. So he was one of the most exciting guys on the Wizards back in the day, and obviously had a lot go on, but just as a player, just too much fun to watch. And so I thought we might shift here to one other guy that we're both familiar with. He's always sharing his film on Twitter and getting to see him on there, Landyn Colyer, where I got to go scout him live and talk to his coach and him and interview him, and they just raved about his kind of like his team first attitude, his willingness to want to learn and listen and constantly get better. Like he's a team guy, constantly working about developing his fundamentals, and he's big on family, but at the same time he's wants to embrace like kill mode on the court, like just dominate everything in front of him. He wants to work on his ball handling a little bit but he's a 6'6" tall guard is the way he describes himself. And, he's clearly a knockdown 3-point shooter, has some impressive two-way feel to the game where he'll be making some defensive instincts, where he'll make some plays with his instincts in that sense, and just makes winning plays and can really make some incredible tough shots. So I'm not sure what else you like about his game, but it was cool to see him in person. Cut them SFA, played Oak Ridge here in Orlando, got to see him face off against Jalen Reese and some fun talent there. So that was a cool matchup, and just curious what you like about his game.
Yeah, I mean, Landyn Colyer I've been following for about 2 years now, and he just keeps getting better and better. And I still believe there's so much more potential and upside in his game that it's scary. And to me, there's not enough people that are in on him. And I get it. He's in Tampa Bay. It's not a hotbed for basketball. I understand. But he should be on a lot of people's radars now with his athleticism, his precision with the ball, and just his ability to make plays. I think at the end of the day, I've noticed in his game when I've watched him, he can make something or nothing out of something. So if he's double teamed, if he's getting blitzed, if there's very limited room, on the court, he's just going to find a way. He's just going to find a way to either make a play or score. But one of the things I don't think is talked about enough about his game is his athleticism is honestly off the charts. He's one of the best athletes that I've seen in high school basketball. I'm not sure if you would agree with that, but that's my feeling towards Landyn in that regard. And I just think that with that athleticism, that 3-level scoring ability, I mean, the sky's the limit. I was talking to someone the other day who was telling me that they think Landyn isn't even close to hitting his potential. And I agree, because as you said, he's a hardworking kid who cares, wants to win, just wants to be a great teammate. He does come from a great family. He's very respectful. He checks all the boxes, right? And it's just a matter of time before more and more people start to buy in. And I don't think it's going to be very long. I'm surprised it hasn't happened as much yet, but that's all right. It's going to happen. I mean, he's just dominating games. Shooting efficiency is really good. He's also, in my opinion, one of the best 3-point shooters in high school, especially when it comes down to making tough contested shots. Just some of the shots he makes, you just shake your head and go, how? And I relate that to some of the guys in the NBA that are making those difficult contested shots. So overall, very impressed with my guy, Landyn Colyer.
Yeah, I mean, that 3-point shooting, tough shot making was the first skill that really stood out. Just his ability to rise and fire, tall shot release, running, off a screen or even pulling up for three. Like he did it in a whole bunch of different ways. And, whether he's a tall guard or more of a 3 as a 6'6" kind of like perimeter player, like the more he improves that handle, the more he'll be able to show off all those shooting and tough shot making skills as a scorer more so than a shooter as well, because he's clearly a knockdown shooter. And like you said, he has these athletic tools. Like he's a big guy out there, and he's able to use those instincts with his length to force turnovers, to wreak a little havoc defensively, deflections all over the place. That's the kind of like active hands defender, smart team first player that you want to see continue to develop and round out his game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to add a little bit more about Colyer as well, he's just a great shot creator. I mean, that guy can just create his own shot, at will. And it's very impressive because, as you know, watching the NBA, a lot of those top level players can create their own shot with ease. And Landyn can do that. Okay. I mean, he's already doing that at an elite level. The other thing that I don't think enough people realize, in my opinion, with his game is the fact that he's a very good defender. He can defend 1 through 5. He can block shots. I mean, I've just been even more impressed with him this season when it comes to his defensive game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, knockdown 3-point shooter, versatile defender who can also hit tough shots. I mean, that at 6'6", like that's a pretty good archetype to make it to the next few stages. And one last thing, getting to see him in person that you might not always get to catch on film per se is just how good of a teammate he is. Like he clearly kind of exudes like positivity the whole time he's out there. Like he's picking up his teammates off the floor, putting his arm around him around the huddle, maybe pointing out a time when somebody could have passed the ball when maybe they forced up a tough shot. He's like, whether he was open or whether somebody else was open, it's like, we can get a better shot than that. And you can kind of clearly tell, like he cares about winning, cares about the right things out there, and his like rooting for his teammates' success. So, nothing but praise and wishful thinking for Landyn's kind of future as a basketball player, and hopefully, get some more eyes on him to kind of get some more offers and blow up a little more on the national scene. And, you listed him as one of the under the radar prospects to keep an eye on in your Substack newsletter. So, was there anyone else that you want to give a shout out to that kind of could use some praise, could use a little shout because they're not being talked about enough or seen enough on the national stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's one kid in particular. Now, I understand he's an offer from Kansas, but I would be surprised if a lot of people know about him. Gene Roebuck from La Mirada High School. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he is one of the best shot makers I've seen in high school. He's a 2027. I think he's about 6'4", 6'5". Again, I never know what the heights. It's hard to know, but he's roughly around 6'4", 6'5". Good build, strong, mature. Like, I would say the one thing that really stood out to me with his game is how mature it is for a guy that's 2027. Because when I was watching him, I didn't know he was a 2027 until someone told me that he was. And I thought, I thought he was a 2025. Like, I mean, this guy is playing beyond his years. And he played extremely well, especially in the one game I saw that Kansas offered him right away. Like, that's how good he is. And I just feel that he's very under the radar because I don't think a lot of people know about him. And he deserves to be on that main radar of all the top guys. Because for me, he's definitely a top guy in the 2027 class.
Yeah, I mean, when you get an offer from Kansas at that age, like, and we're a couple years out from when, he'd be actually heading there. I mean, that's when you're doing something right.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point about that, Kansas doesn't offer that early in the recruitment. They just don't. So you have to be special. You have to be great in order to get an offer in as a 2026 or 2027. I mean, they just don't hand those out. They just don't. Like, you could look back to their recruitment. They don't do it. So that just is a testament to how good Gene Roebuck really is. So he was, really impressive. Just, I really believe that the sky's the limit for him as well. The other guy that I wanted to mention is Isaiah Rogers, who goes to Centennial High School in the LA area. Just a phenomenal three-point shooter. I was at one game of his where he hit 9 threes in a row.
Man, I mean, that's nuclear. Like what? Like
yes,
9 in a row. Like
yes,
just like that was the offense for 9 plays.
Yes, because he was just on fire.
That's crazy.
And I have not seen that, Ryan.
I don't think I've ever heard. I don't think I've ever seen that. Like I don't even know if Steph's had an opportunity to do that in the NBA. Like
that's right. And I just thought, wow, he's one of the best three-point shooters I've seen in a long time. He's gonna be fine. But again, he's under the radar. A lot of people don't know about him.
And did you say if he had any offers or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely does have offers. Now, he surprisingly doesn't have a lot of high major offers. Like, not even. I mean, I guess you wouldn't even consider New Mexico as a high major. So he actually doesn't have any high major offers, which is crazy to me. I know he's a 2026, but I mean, he's a proven shot maker, especially from three. You'd figure he would have more because he's well deserving of that. And that's one of the things that I came across from that one game and just watching him. Like, how does he not have at least one high major offer, right? And that's why I think he's very underrated. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're hitting that many threes, you should be getting an offer every other three. Like after 5 threes in a row, it's like, all right, we'll give him one offer. Yeah, but, I mean, once you hit 6, 7, 8, 9, you should get an offer every time you hit another 3 in a row. At that point,
yeah, that's right. And even UNLV, I mean, I guess they're like borderline high major, but I don't know, like if you can define, saying definitely that they're high major because. I mean, they're like on the fringe. I don't know if you'd agree with me on that.
Yeah, shout out Greg Anthony, the Running Rebels. That big program at different points, but compared to nowadays.
But my point is he doesn't have enough high major offers, and he deserves more than that. There's another guy I want to give a shout out to, Camden McGilvery at Crawley High School. Just outside Fort Worth area. He is an up-and-coming star. And this guy is one of the best point guards that I've watched. Just somebody that is very dynamic, but he plays so hard. Anybody you talk to, they'll tell you he plays extremely hard. He just wants to do everything he can to win. He's tough. He's physical. And he's only 6 feet. But he plays way bigger than he is. He's also in the 2026 class and a guy that has been getting more offers as of late. He's got LSU. He's got Cal, just a few to note. But there's going to be more coming for Camden McGilvery and his recruitment. Another couple quick shout-outs is one, Brayden Allward from Byron Nelson High School in the Dallas area. Just a big physical guy that can create his own shot, athletic, plays hard, good rebounder. So he's somebody to keep an eye on. Hunter Kaplan from Crean Lutheran High School in Irvine, California, just outside of LA. In the Orange County area, if you will. He's one of the best three-point shooters I've seen in the 2027 class. He might be the best shooter in the 2027 class. Not a lot of people know about him, but he has a lot of Steph Curry to his game. I'm not saying he's Steph Curry by any means, but I'm saying his style of play really is similar to Steph Curry.
Hey, we saw Jared McCain hop on the scene, get some of those comps as like a relocating three-point knockdown sniper. So you never know. He obviously inspired the next generation of hoopers in a lot of ways, freeing up the way guards are allowed to just pull up for three now. It was more of taboo back
Yep.
early on as for traditional point guards, and now it's almost expected if that's as a part of your game to stretch out the defense. So, I wish all the best to him. Shout out to some of these under the radar prospects that hopefully people are able to check out and catch some more tape of their games and blow up on the national scene. Wish all these kids the best of luck to keep growing their games, get more eyeballs on their games, and get some opportunity to prove what they can do, because that's what it really comes down to scouting is wanting to find talent that deserves a shot, that the guys that can actually play wherever they're playing at. Let's see them go up against the best and see who really comes out on top and makes it to the next level. So, excited for all these guys to keep getting that next opportunity. And, just want to appreciate you hopping on the pod.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you
problem.
for taking the time. Always fun talking hoops.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it. You can check Jordan Allen's, Substack, Rising Stars, and his Rising Stars scouting service. He mentioned his Twitter as well. If you want to shout that out one more time, I think I don't want to mess it up.
No, it's okay. It's at Jollen, so that's JALLN. You could follow me there. I'll be sending out recruiting news and just updates on trade rumors in the NBA, but mainly recruiting stuff. So for all recruiting information, please follow me. I'll be sending out some recruiting updates soon. So appreciate you having me on the pod, Ryan. Always great talking hoops with you. So it's been a lot of fun, and let's see where all these guys end up and just enjoy the process.
Yeah, exactly, man. And Jordan brings some great insights. He finds the information that you're looking for this recruiting process, especially. So you got to subscribe and check out that Substack. And just once again, I appreciate you taking the time. Have a good one.
You got it. You too, man.
With Ryan.
Learning Basketball is a Swish Theory podcast hosted from Beyond the Arcade. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's writing at theswishtheory.com.